This is the Georgia Farm Monitor. Since 1966, your source for state and national agribusiness news, and features for farmers and consumers about Georgia's #1 industry, agriculture. The Georgia Farm Monitor is produced by the state's largest general farm organization, the Georgia Farm Bureau. Now, here are your hosts, Ray DeLessio and Kenny Burgamy.
One thing about Kenny and I, we are men of our word. Last week we told you we would see you again, and here we are. Thanks so much for tuning into the Farm Monitor, everybody. I'm Ray DeLessio.
And I'm Kenny Burgamy. As always, we've got a great show for you. Now, coming up, someone else who's a man of his word, actually many words in a short amount of time, this year's Georgia Auctioneer champion, Tim Yoder. See and hear why this job isn't for everyone. Also on the program, Nash Farm Battlefield in Henry County. These days, it plays host to weddings, farmers markets, and special events. But years ago, the one-time working farm was the site of a major Civil War battle.
And then later, spinach. It's good for the heart as well as a breeding ground for heart cells. The amazing discovery scientists are calling a major medical breakthrough. These stories and so much more starting right now on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Extreme drought in North Georgia and in other parts of the state not only put a lot of stress on traditional row crop farms, but it also put a lot of stress on Georgia's forest lands. The Monitor's Mark Wildman traveled to Floyd County, where Ips beetles are causing forest land owners to lose many acres of pine trees.
In Cave Springs, Georgia, not long ago this stand of pine trees was extremely healthy. But after a severe drought put the forest under stress, most of these trees are dying off. The problem is not just a lack of water, though.
One of the native beetle species we have here is called the Ips beetles, and they are attracted to stressed trees. And so we have started, in November and December, we started seeing a lot of trees dying.
The beetles themselves are very small, but the damage they do can easily be seen.
The Ips beetles start from the top down, so you'll start seeing some top branches die back, and with that you might also see what we call pitch tubes. What happens is that a healthy pine tree, in order to fend off the attack of Ips beetles, actually tries to push the beetles back out when they try to burrow through the bark. So it uses its sap to push the beetles back out. With Ips beetles, they'll be small. They look kind of like bubblegum, sticky sap on the trees, on the flat parts of the bark plates, and this year the trees were so stressed that they didn't have enough sap to try to push these beetles back.
Walking the forest is very beneficial, but officials can get a much better look and spot new damage easier from the air.
We found a lot of large spots, especially in Floyd, on the western part of Floyd County, and we had to look at those. After we flew it and looked at them and located them, we had to do a lot of ground inspections to make sure that's what we were dealing with.
Looking at the bark on a tree, sometimes it's hard to tell exactly where the beetles are. But as the bark is peeled back, you can see the damage.
This is an adult Ips beetle. This is the largest of the 3 species we have here in Georgia. You can see this is the gallery where the female has come down, and she's laid her eggs off to the side in these side chambers, where the larvae, which is right here, will then mature and emerge from the tree and go to attack another tree.
The best protection is a good forest management plan. But even if you do everything right, the beetles can still invade your land.
This landowner thins his timber when he's supposed to. He does a lot of prescribed burning, which is very beneficial in keeping his pine stands healthy. He's a good manager, and he's still, though, all the things that he had done and managing his stands, he was still not able to prevent the Ips beetles from attacking his pine stands.
This is a small stand, less than 15 acres, and they probably have about 80% mortality in this stand. We tell landowners by the time they get to about 40% mortality within their stand that it's time to start to think about clear cutting and starting over.
The Georgia Forestry Commission works hard to keep the state's forest lands healthy and are an excellent resource for landowners who want to protect their timber, which benefits us all. Reporting from Floyd County, I'm Mark Wildman for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Thank you, Mark. In Cherokee County recently, residents had a great opportunity to see just how important agriculture is to their community. At the annual Ag Day event, over 30 agricultural exhibits were on display to promote and educate attendees about Georgia agriculture. Now, even though Cherokee County is a part of the Atlanta metro area, agriculture is still a large part of the economy.
As you can see here today, there's still a lot of agriculture in the community. I mean, we've lost some of our farms to developments, but then we've gotten some new farms, and so there is still a lot of agriculture in the county. In fact, the school system is the largest employer in Cherokee County, but to the best of my knowledge, with the statistics that the county extension does for us every year, then agriculture through the farming and the poultry and the agritourism, they are the second highest income in Cherokee County.
Meantime, like every other profession, auctioneering a very competitive field, and that's why being recognized as the best is so important.
It's a title recently earned by 2017 Georgia Auctioneer champion Tim Yoder, who is living his dream thanks to persistence and plenty of hard work. Damon Jones has the story.
That is world-class auctioneer Tim Yoder at work as he runs the weekly sale at the South Central Livestock Stockyard in Fitzgerald. It's a unique profession he developed a passion for as a kid while attending auctions with his dad and decided to make a career of it after watching YouTube videos.
The guy was saying that anybody can be an auctioneer, that you just have to practice, put the time in, and it turned a light on. You know, it was like, okay, you know, I can actually do this. So then I started pursuing it.
And the first step was finding the right auction school to attend. These are 2-week classes that give all the information needed to get into the business.
You learn the auction laws, you learn the ins and outs. I mean, they teach you the ins and outs, the way to handle business. They also teach you your chant, teach you how to develop your chant.
And that chant is something Yoder is constantly developing by trying out new techniques, working with the timing, and of course, putting in plenty of hard work.
We're always trying to improve. It's a daily practice. You have to practice daily, and you always strive to be a little better. I practice, I would say, probably at least a half hour every day. And along with, I do at least 3 weekly sales, sometimes up to, you know, 5 or 6 sales a week, but I do at least 3 weekly sales, and then along with practicing at least, you know, I put in practice time every day.
And all that effort has paid off as Yoder has been named the 2017 Georgia Auctioneer Champion and will compete for the World Championship against the best of the best.
Auctioneers from across the country, you come together there and you have to make the top 10, place in the top 10 at one of those contests, and then you make it on to the World Finals, which there will be 31. There'll be the top 30, and then the champion from Canada will also come together to compete for that world title.
Now, being only 27 years old, Yoder knows there is still plenty to learn about the business. However, he does recognize there are certain characteristics auctioneers must have.
You need to be an honest person, you need to have integrity, and you need to be trustworthy, because you're going to be handling people's assets, people's livelihood. And so those are 3 things that a young auctioneer needs to have.
As for his advice on those who want to break into the industry,
find someone that's established in the auction business that will help guide you and give you tips along the way and help you get into the business.
It's a business Yoder has dreamed about being a part of for years. And now that it's finally here, he says there's one aspect of the job he enjoys the most.
The interaction with the people. That is definitely the interaction. I meet so many great people, and I'm around so many people, and I like the interaction.
Reporting from Fitzgerald, I'm Damon Jones for the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Damon, great job. Well, this may look like your average Georgia farm, but it's not. In fact, it once played host to one of the most epic Civil War battles on record. When we come back, a trip to Henry County's Nash Farm battlefield. Stay tuned.
All right, welcome back to the Monitor. Henry County, Georgia, Nash Farm Battlefield, site of one of the most epic showdowns in Civil War history. Well, now it's a place to go buy fresh, locally grown products. Recently, Nash kicked off its monthly farmers market, and a pretty good turnout if you ask me. Those in attendance got to see all kinds of produce, baked goods, jewelry, crafts, and other great products. Organizers say the market will take place on the first Sunday of every month from now until Christmas. They also have plans for live bands, cooking demos, and other fun activities for the family. Now, if you plan on traveling to Nash Farm, the museum is a must-see attraction, as is the rest of the park. As I mentioned earlier, the farm was once the site of a famous Civil War battle known as Kilpatrick's Charge, and to this day, they are still finding Civil War artifacts on the property. During our trip to Nash, museum curator Bill Dodd filled us in on everything from the farm's history to the details of that incredible battle.
In the 1840s, 1850s, at its height, it was 2,200 acres. 600 acres of it was in agriculture, and it was a cotton and corn farm. That was the two primary crops that were raised here on the property. There was also livestock on the property. You had goats, pigs, cows that were here, as well as oxen at the time, were still in use, and chickens, of course. And so you had livestock and agriculture all going on the property. Everybody wonders why in the world did they gather together in beautiful downtown Lovejoy to have a battle. Well, 1 mile west of where we're at is the Macon Western Railroad. And most all of the Atlanta campaign was about the railroads. Because one of the things that the Army can't survive without is food and ammunition and other supplies. And the railroads were the main supply lines. Because Atlanta at that time, just like it is today, was a transportation hub. So all the railroads connected in Atlanta. So that was the reason that Sherman, one of the reasons he wanted to try to get control of the railroads. Well, just at the far end of the property is a hill, and just beyond the crest of the hill is where they formed their line. And on the command, they started to charge from there through the cornfield. And as one of the Union soldiers on a letter home wrote, we went charging through the field with our sabers drawn, slashing and cutting our way through. As we come across soldiers, we were cutting off heads and arms left and right as we charged through and overran the Confederate line. Very brutal from that standpoint, and this was the largest saber charge south of Virginia. There was over 10,000 battles and skirmishes that were fought during the Civil War. The National Park Service considers 383 or 385 of those as being significant events, and the cavalry charge here at Nash, or the Battle of Lovejoy Station, which is the way it's recorded, was one of those significant events. Here at Nash Farm, of course, the landscape is pretty much the same way it was 154 years ago when the battle, or 152, 3 years ago when the battle took place. It's still open rolling land. You can still see the original washes out there, which is where the skirmish line was at, that the Confederates hid in as the soldiers come charging across the field. So it's still preserved as farmland. In fact, we still cut hay off the property and to keep it, in a pristine condition. Right here around the house, most of the artifacts that we find are from the cavalry battle. Then we find campsite artifacts because when Atlanta surrendered, all the Confederate Army came to Lovejoy. And on this property was General S.D. Lee's campsite was on this property. And we had roughly about 3,000 Confederate soldiers that camped on this property from the 1st of September up until the 19th of September. The park is open 7 days a week. We have walking trails. We also have 2 lakes here on the property where you can go fish. All you need is a current Georgia fishing license and go have fun at the, drowning worms at the ponds. The museum is currently only open on Fridays and Saturdays from 9 to 5. We do open up for out-of-town guests. If they'll call me and I'm available, I will come and open up for groups that are coming from out of town or special tour groups.
Yeah, really neat place, and Bill Dodd, just a great guy, really knows the Civil War history. And as I mentioned, the museum is only open on Fridays and Saturdays, but feel free to check out their website at henrycountybattlefield.com. You can also rent the place out for weddings, and you can contact Bill directly at 404-281-8651. And don't forget, if you missed any part of this story or others on today's program, you can still see them in their entirety at our YouTube channel. That's the Georgia Farm Monitor. We've got stories there going all the way back to 2009. Also, go ahead, like the Georgia Farm Monitor Facebook page. We do take requests, so if you have a story idea or you want to comment, or if you want to leave a comment or a story we've done, send us a message either on Facebook or at the address you see there on the screen. That is news@farm-monitor.com. Some are calling it a major medical breakthrough. When we come back, how scientists are turning spinach leaves into farms for functioning human heart cells. Stay tuned. Welcome back. How's this for the wow factor? Using plants to solve a major medical dilemma.
Yeah, Ray, researchers at Worcester Polytech Institute discovered they were able to take spinach leaves and actually grow human heart tissue. Here's a look at how they do it.
So we take spinach leaves and we perfuse them with a detergent that removes all the cellular material from the spinach leaf. What we're left with is the structure that keeps those cells in place, and then we can seed human cells on that structure.
And so the idea here is we have this very thin, flat piece of tissue that already has that vascular network in there, and so we should be able to potentially stack up multiple leaves and create a piece of cardiac tissue. The major limiting factor for tissue engineering a graft and getting it to be into the clinic is the lack of a vascular network. And so techniques can't fabricate microvasculature the way that the body needs it. So without that microvasculature, you lose that oxygen transport. And so as you build a bigger and bigger graft for, say, like a heart attack on a human, you're going to need something fairly large. So without that vascular network, you get a lot of tissue death.
And so our hope is we'll be able to use that vascular system in the spinach leaf to provide the cells that are grown on the leaf with nutrients and oxygen. And so for use in cardiac applications, patients who have had heart attacks or myocardial infarctions, part of the heart no longer contracts. And so what we're trying to do is grow cardiac muscle on these leaves, which then can be perfused with a blood source by the veins that are inside the leaf. And so we can, in theory, sew those veins into the native arteries in the heart and therefore produce a contractile muscle that can replace the infarcted or the dead tissue in the heart.
In terms of trying to accelerate this towards building actual cardiac tissue, we just kind of started looking into whether or not the cardiac cells will attach and will they continue to contract on this spinach leaf, and they do, and they seem to stay contractile for a long period of time. They look and act like normal cardiac cells when they're on there. So in terms of the small amount that we've been working with, it seems to be very promising.
We really believe that this scaffold has the capability to help treat patients. It's still a long ways away, but to think about combining the technology that farmers have been using for thousands of years and growing different crops in the field, to be able to just take something as simple as a spinach leaf, which is an abundant plant, and actually turn that into a tissue that has the potential for blood to flow through it is really very, very exciting, and we hope it's going to be a significant advancement in the field.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
It really is.
Finally today, with an admission rate of less than 10%, the United States Naval Academy is one of the toughest institutions to gain entrance into.
But that didn't stop Monticello's Wyatt Galloway, who says growing up on the farm not only piqued his interest in the military, but also instilled the values needed to make his dream a reality.
It really took a leadership role in our farm. He has basically been running it by himself since I took a job outside the farm, and he's been really doing an outstanding job.
It's taught me a lot, but mainly hard work ethic. That's been the key to a lot of my success, is just having that foundation of hard work and work ethic. It's also taught me how to be truthful, because on the farm, you know, if you mess up, you got to come clean, because if you don't, you could somewhere down the line, it could really mess something up. And it's taught me a lot about responsibility, not just with people or with tasks, but with animals as well. A lot with what we do has repercussions with the animals and with the plants and the harvest. So it's taught me a lot with responsibility. I call him my uncle, but my cousin married a Marine, and so I got to see him go through the Citadel and how it changed him, and that really got me interested in the military and what it could offer me as well. And through that, I kind of researched it on my own, and it's a place I want to be in. It's something I feel like I should do.
You know, we took him up over spring break his sophomore year and toured the campus, and I really thought that once he saw what all went into it, that, you know, maybe he'd be more excited about staying at the farm, but he just fell in love with it, fell in love with Academy, and fell in love with, you know, the process, and he's done everything that he could possibly do to prepare himself.
I've actually been working on that a long time. I got interested in it probably about 5th grade, middle school. I kind of found it, and then I just kind of fell in love with the place. I went up there and visited a few times, and that's just been my goal ever since, and I've been working towards it, taking all the right classes, pushing myself academically, and really pushing myself towards that.
You know, it's been a trying process, and, you know, it's been a lot of late nights doing applications and preparing him for interviews, and then the waiting process of having to wait and check emails every day, 2 or 3 times a day, or waiting at the mailbox. And then for that really to come through was really exciting. You know, he called me on the phone, told him that Congressman Jody Heiss personally called him and congratulated him. And I mean, I just had chill bumps from one end to the other, and just extremely excited, but then again a little bit hesitant about, you know, what his future does hold and what comes along with being a leader in the military.
I'm thinking mechanical engineering right now is the path I'm headed on. And that really came about because of working on the farm. I get to work with a lot of heavy equipment, and we have to repair a lot of equipment because everything breaks, obviously. And that really got me interested in mechanics. I'm looking to go into the Marine Corps, and even though I know I won't be able to really choose my selection, I'm hoping to get into combat engineering and use that degree. Being on the farm, it teaches you a lot, and it really showed me how you had to put in your time, do the work, and do it yourself. And I don't like the idea of people going fight my fight when I can be putting in some time myself.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the Georgia Farm Monitor.
Just a reminder, for all the latest ag info regarding food, great recipes, and what's happening down on the farm, be sure and check out our Twitter, Facebook, and Pinterest pages. You'll stay informed and see what's up in the world of farming and here on the Farm Monitor Show.
Take care, everybody. We will see you next week right here on the Georgia Farm Monitor.
As always, have a great week.